I'm starting to think this might actually be a weekly thing, and maybe even something I do fortnightly with these videos because it's gotten to a point that I'm a bit fed up with it. And if it does happen every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it may be, honestly, that's kind of fine. I like getting the easy content. It's probably my most enjoyable content to make because I'm very, very passionate about it, and it's something that I like to do because I don't want to do this to get big. I want to do this to just share my opinion because I think I'm relatively knowledgeable about AFL as a whole, not just my team, St Kilda. I think I know a fair bit, and I think it's a really important part of the game as well. It's not something we should take lightly. And of course, what I'm talking about is the suspensions. This is recording on the Wednesday night. It's a bit late to the Monday night where we found out that both Butters and Crouch had their one being a fine, one being a suspension. Butters was the one who did not get suspended. He was able to get off, and Crouch was the one who did get suspended. I will play the videos for you. I won't do an analysis like I've done in the past couple videos on it. So I'll play them now. We've got the Butters clip here. And then this is the Matt Crouch clip. I am feeling a bit under the weather at the moment, so if you hear me being a bit either snotty or my nose is clogged, that's why. Hoping to be better and hopefully to be able to go to the Saints game tomorrow night, and so I'll be able to make some content on that as well. I might be able to do a bit of vlogging for the game, who knows, and potentially release that. Maybe it's a new thing that I can try, but we'll just see how I go. But I'm going to talk about the Butters and Crouch thing, my thoughts on it. But I'm also going to be talking about the Finlayson thing because if you don't know, he on his wife's podcast said that he's um, pissed with the AFL, I believe is what he said, about the suspension that he got, the 3 weeks. And then he came out with the media and being taken on the way to training, saying that he rescinded his comments. They shortly deleted the clip from the channel, and saying that it was taken out of context, or he didn't say what he was trying to, like he thought of something else but said the wrong thing. So I'll be talking about that afterwards. But to start with the Butters and the Crouch incident, Butters is, I think, very lucky to be able to not actually make proper contact with Banfield. He does make some sort of contact, and the speed that he comes in makes it look really, really bad. He's coming at what seems like 100 miles an hour, comes in and uses essentially his tailbone, and that hits Banfield essentially in the chin, gets him here. You can see the sweat and the rain uh, bounce off him as he gets hit, and that shows there was high contact. And so for the AFL to think that there wasn't is a bit weird because you can literally see from the footage that there is high contact. He comes in very recklessly, as I said, very quickly, and Banfield's over the ball already, so he is the first one there. He should be the one protected both by the rules as well as from the players around him. And for Butters to come in that reckless and to be very lucky to not properly hit him in the head, I think is very lucky. And I still think it should have been off. I'm going back to saying what I normally say. If you don't want it in the game, and if you're going to ban one of them, you have to ban the act and not the result of it. Jack Carroll in the Matt Crouch situation also didn't get concussed. Well, at least I don't believe he did, but there is still serious concern for spinal damage. I heard David King saying that, and it's absolutely correct when your neck is in such a vulnerable position. If Butters hits him slightly higher in the cheekbone area, he's knocked out, and Butters could be getting 3 to 4 weeks because it probably is on the same level as the Sam Powell Pepper tackle in preseason. I just don't understand how the AFL has made so many wrong decisions week after week. It just doesn't make sense. And for Laura Kane and Andrew Dillon to come in and for this to still be a problem when they have tried to say to the media and say to the fans that this is going to change and it still hasn't, it's a huge problem. So now onto the Matt Crouch when he comes in, not as quick, but he makes a lot more severe contact. So I think him getting 1 week, it's probably low, to be honest. Yes, it's what you were taught at junior level to go in and use your hips as protection. But when you're doing that and you're not necessarily first to the ball, then that's the wrong way to do it. You've got to protect the player who's at the ball first. That's what it is. Otherwise, it's not a football act. If you're not at the ball first, you should be looking to tackle. Yes, you can win the ball, but if you're not going to win the ball first, you should be looking to tackle, not bumping with your hips on his head. It's the strongest part of your body, and it's probably the weakest part of their body that you were trying to hit, essentially. And so I think it probably should have been 2 or 3 weeks for the Crouch one, because there is serious, serious potential for injury. The Butters one, I think you can get away with 1 week or even 2 weeks if you really want to go with it. I think 2 weeks probably needs to be a bit more contact because it was very light, and Banfield was able to get straight back up. Whereas Jack Carroll looked a bit more dazed than what Bailey Banfield was, and so there was a bit of an indication that there was more contact in the Crouch and Carroll incident. And so, sure, if you look at it that way, but I just think there's a lot going wrong with the AFL at the moment and these decisions. It's just a bit stupid, and for them to have inconsistency after inconsistency with decision making, it's looking like a really, really poor thing in the AFL, and that needs to change. To talk more about the incidents as a whole and what should they do for the players. Again, as I mentioned, you've got to learn to tackle more. It's something that you need to not necessarily go always with contact. It shouldn't always be a bump. If you're going side on, then that's fine, but you can't be side on into their head. You've got to be side on into their body, looking to use the strongest part of your body, your hip, what's rotating into them, potentially as more into their shoulder, into their arm area, into their chest, because that's where they can actually brace for contact and it won't be hit counted as high. It'll get your head over the ball as well, and it'll protect both you and the player at cause. And so it's a really tough situation. I'm not doubting that. I just think it's going to leave a lot of waiting room, and something's bad is going to happen soon, and we don't want that in the game. To now talk about the Jeremy Finlayson situation and him saying the stuff on his wife's podcast. I think it's honestly not a fair reaction, but I understand where he's coming from. To be hit with a 3 week suspension when the AFL hasn't found consistency in it is it's definitely a bit harsh, I would say. They gave Clarko 2 weeks for apparently calling Jai Simpkin a cocksucker, which there was probably more said, but that's all we've rumored that's come out, and we still don't know what's been said from Finlayson, and whether that's not really the important part of it. But for the AFL to give Clarkson 2 weeks and Finlayson 3 shows stupidness. It shows indecisiveness in the meetings. They don't know where they're at with this, and that's really, really bad. It's not a look you want to have where you don't know what kind of band you're handing out. It just shows inconsistency. It shows poor planning, and that's a really bad look. And so with Finlayson, I understand where he's coming from. Apparently, there was an Essendon player after he said it who immediately went to him, and I think there was a bit of a scuffle afterwards, and that's why he reported it to the umpire. I think if I were to make a, a bit of a guess of what happened, I just said he would have said something to the player as they were running away. An Essendon player heard it, and they would have said to him, "Hey, what are you doing?" Stuff like that. And then would have said, "Hey, I'm going to report this to the umpire. If you don't do it yourself, it's going to make it look really bad on you." So, which is why he did it. And so people saying that he was the one who reported it because it was caught on the microphone, I think is a bit of a not. It's a bit of a bluff, I would call it, because I don't think he actually would have done it had it not been caught on the microphone. I think it would have just been a he said, she said sort of situation. But in the end, he was able to say it. The clubs knew about it, and they were able to deal with it. The AFL, and the fact that the AFL had 4 days to deal with it, and they still weren't able to get a good decision was weird. The backlash he received after making the comments on his wife's podcast, I don't really know what they've said. There's been a lot of talk about it, and it's just been a bit overblown. He got his 3 weeks, and there's nothing wrong with him feeling a bit left out by the AFL and a bit as a scapegoat. You could call it as well, with him getting the 3 weeks when he probably didn't deserve 3 weeks. Um, Even though you could make an argument there was more, it's probably more so the fact that Taylor Walker also got 6 weeks for something as a racially motivated slur. I'm also going to be talking about the Charlie Cameron tackle because he did get off from a 1 week suspension. I'll play the video of his tackle now. After watching the Cameron tackle on his former teammate Jake Lever, it's probably understandable, according to the rules at least, as to why he got off from the 1 week suspension. He did get Lever to get one hand off and be able to brace the contact, but there is obviously the two motions. He also picks him up off his feet, so A, he's less balanced, and B, there's going to be more force going down due to the gravity that he will get from being in the air and not being able to brace himself with his feet. And there's definitely two motions, and he does hit his head on the ground, but it's not necessarily most contact. It's not forceful, I would say, and he definitely doesn't get concussed. But I think where needs to come into play is the fact that we don't want players slinging players into the ground, because it does cause head injuries, and the cause for harm is very, very high with those sort of acts. And so for the AFL to remove the 1 week ban at the tribunal, I think it's the wrong decision. If you really want to not have this in the game, which they've said they don't like this act, yet simply because Cameron's a nice person, simply because he's had, over 200 games without a suspension, without anything, he's not able to be suspended. I think that's a bit weird. One of my mates made a really funny joke. He said that um, just because he didn't cheat on his wife means that he's a good bloke, so he can get off. It's very, good, good piece of humor there. I just think that the AFL have not been able to find grounds for consistency in their rules. A new person in charge, Laura Kane, and still no change. And I think that's cause for concern. It's something we need to look at. And if need be, happy to put my hand up to do it. I think I can be better than what the current system is, because at the moment it's dog shit. But that's going to be the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you like this type of content. Leave your thoughts about the two hits and a couple of others in the comments below. And thanks for watching.